Good afternoon and welcome to the latest in our series of live careers webinars brought to you by the Hertfordshire Opportunities Portal. That's hopinto.co.uk. That is a website that's been set up specifically for young people and students from schools and colleges in Hertfordshire or nearby to find out a whole wealth of careers information. So on the HOP website, you could go in there, you could type in any job or particular industry that you're interested in, and then you'll be given information about how you can get into that industry. Firstly, for those of you that are watching this session live, just want to reassure you that we can't see or hear any of you, but hopefully you can see and hear the three of us. Well done, first of all, for logging in and joining this webinar. I appreciate it's the end of the school day and you've either been at school in lessons all day or you've perhaps been working from home. But these careers webinars are a really great opportunity for you to hear directly about an industry that you're interested in going into from people that work in the industry and possibly might be the people that will be giving you your first jobs when you go into the workplace. So thanks for joining the session today. We are recording this live, so if you are watching it live at the moment, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions to our panelists, Gemma and Gavin, who I'll present to you very shortly. If you are not watching this live and you're watching it via our YouTube chat, then hopefully that you'll enjoy it. You obviously won't be able to ask questions live, but if you do watch it on the video in the comment section at the end of the YouTube section, you can type your questions in there and then we can direct them through and then we can try and get a response to you as well. So the purpose of these webinars is to inform you about different industries, and today we are going to be looking at careers in the motor trade industry. Our panelists today are Gemma Edwards, who is the Careers Coordinator for the Institute of the Motor Industry, which happens to be based in Hertfordshire, albeit their remit is across the whole of the country. Gemma is involved in recruitment in the motor industry and has been in previous roles as well. So she's very well versed in telling you the sorts of jobs that are available within the industry and the sorts of skills that you need. Then Gavin White is the CEO of Autotech Recruit. Gavin has worked his way through the industry and now runs his own business. So he will be able to tell you about the sorts of skills or qualities that he would be expecting and also the rewards that are available to employees that work in the industry as well. So welcome to the webinar. We hope you'll enjoy it. We hope you find it really informative and you'll go away with this with a lot more information and inspiration than you knew before. So first of all, I'm going to hand you over to Gemma, who can give you a bit of an oversight about what we mean by the motor trade industry. As we go through this webinar, if you want to ask any questions to either Gemma or to Gavin, you can do that. So on your dashboard, you have got a questions tab. If you click on the questions tab, that will bring out a text box. If you type in your question into the text box, that's visible only to me, so no one else in the audience will see it, and then I can direct it to Gemma or Gavin, who can answer it for you. And if you don't feel that we've answered the question, then please do follow up and ask us a second one as well. But really do encourage you to ask questions and to find out all the things to the bits that maybe we're not going to cover. So Gemma, if I could hand over to you first of all, and then you can share with a little bit of your insight into what the motor industry is all about.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for having me along, Gareth. Could I ask Mia to give me control?
Yep, we can Brilliant. Do that.
Thank you.
Just work out my. Yep, you've got that.
Yeah, I've got it. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining us today. As Gareth said, my name's Gemma. I'm the Careers Coordinator for the Institute of the Motor Industry. So what is the automotive industry? So it covers everything from between having a car leaving a manufacturer to a car being scrapped and everything in between. It influences everyone as well. So from delivering goods to commuters travelling to work to emergency services responding to a crisis. So everywhere around you, you see the automotive industry, and it helps keep the country moving ultimately. There are over 160 roles within the industry, and this is only going to grow due to the new demands of electric and autonomous vehicles that are coming into the industry. I'll go into some of the roles later, but they include things like sales, leasing, maintenance and repair, parts and service advisors, management, business, and many more. So not just the technical side of things that people tend to assume automotive is. And who are we? So you might not have ever heard of the IMI or the Institute for the Motor Industry. We are the only professional body within the United Kingdom for the automotive industry. It is our mission and our passion to deliver innovation, employment opportunities and growth to the industry. We believe that everybody working within the industry needs to have the most relevant up-to-date skills, qualifications and training to be able to thrive. And our purpose is basically to provide that and to continuously evolve and support the industry. We've also got our AutoCity website, which is our one-stop career shop, basically. So any impartial careers information, advice on careers in the automotive industry, that's all available via our websites. Automotive in numbers. So as you can see, there's so many different manufacturers, garages, and centres around the whole of the UK. So there's over 2,500 automotive suppliers. You know, there's 9 bus and coach manufacturers alone, and there's 82 billion pounds worth of UK automotive turnover per year. So it's a huge industry to work in. Now, I am going to try and play a video. I can't guarantee it's going to work, but let's give it a try. Please do shout at me if you can't hear the sound. Oh, sorry. I'm going to save that video because it doesn't want to play.
We can add that, if it's a YouTube video, Gemma, we can add that to the presentation at the end of it, yeah.
So we'll skip that one, but that basically goes through the fantastic careers and where the automotive industry is going at the moment. But I'll send you that link separately to everybody. So in terms of when you're coming into a career in automotive, a lot of people ask what subjects they're best to study. The automotive industry is ideally aligned to STEM subjects, so things such as science, technology, English and maths. These are really important at GCSE level because the majority of automotive apprenticeships require a grade C in maths and English. They can be completed during your apprenticeship as a functional skills. We also look at computer science. If you know the automotive industry, you'll know the technology within cars, lorries and even tractors is absolutely huge. So due to the rise in electric vehicles and computerized systems, there'll be becoming more and more of a demand for our technicians. If you're interested in the paint and body side of things, then art and design is a great subject to study. They look for people with a keen eye for detail to deal with the accident repair centres. Business and economics is also a good one. So anywhere from car valeting up to dealer ownership, you'd benefit from subject knowledge in business and economics. Skills and personality traits. So there are many skills and personality types that suit the automotive industry, but the ones we think are most important to succeed in any career are drive and ambition, willingness to challenge yourself, problem solving, able to follow instructions, dynamic, good communication skills, curiosity, and a good team worker. Routes into the automotive industry. You can go to college, you can take up an apprenticeship, or you can go straight to university. It really is a personal choice and about what suits you best. All of them are great options. We've found that apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships give a good amount of hands-on experience that employers value, especially in technical roles. But also studying engineering, business or management as a degree are great options depending on which career path you want to go into. Types of apprenticeships available. So we do have obviously the technician side of things, so fixing and repairing the vehicles in terms of the light vehicle technician and the heavy vehicle technician and even the motorcycle technicians. But away from that, there's so many other facets of the automotive industry, so whether that be customer service, whether it be the sales side of things, the parts and technology side of things. You can find lots of information all on our Auto City website about the different types of apprenticeships available for you. And what makes a difference between each apprenticeship application? Ultimately, it's you. So identifying what makes you different from every other applicant is going to make you successful. So start with your skills. Are there any areas in which you're particularly strong at school? You know, you look at your friends and go, actually, I'm stronger in that area. You know, that's a skill set. So think of your time at school as a job. What have you been doing? What did you learn? You know, how did you learn it? And what skills are you taking with you out of that school environment into a workplace? The other thing to remember is to be personal. Everyone is different and will have taken a slightly different path. So making your application as personal and telling your story will differentiate you from the application before yours and the one after yours. Benefits of being in an apprenticeship. Apprentices are a fantastic way to gain a career in the industry. It's paid employment combined with structured training in a specific field, and it will give you a broad understanding of the industry and the workplace while learning and earning and gaining an industry recognised qualification. I'm now going to pass you over to Gavin from Autotech Recruit.
Thanks, Gemma. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was a few minutes late. I couldn't get my desktop frozen. I couldn't get on it. So, but yeah, I'm here now. So thanks for the opportunity, Graham. And yeah, to echo some of what Gemma was saying, really, a bit of background before I go into who we are and what we do as a company. I left school pretty much sort of 16 years old, didn't really know what I wanted to do, as I would imagine most people that may be watching this may be feeling the same. The big wide world out there is quite scary, and there's a lot to try and get your head around and decide what it is you want to do. Anything I would say from my own learnings is you're never probably going to end up where you think you might end up, so keep an open mind to things. I left, went to college for a couple of years and studied business studies, and then I quite quickly got into employment and doing various different jobs, but didn't sort of really settle in any that I felt were really a long-term career for me or where I wanted to be. After a short time doing a bit of traveling around Australia and around the world, I come back, started in the motor trade when I was about 20 years old, and I started working as a car salesman for a Suzuki dealership in Bedford. Now, really enjoyed this, massively enjoyed sales. I've always had a passion about cars and automotive. My dad was an aircraft technician, but was always tinkering with a car on the driveway on a Sunday morning, or taking an engine out of something, or fiddling around with a motorbike or a lawnmower engine, whatever it was. So I was always sort of tinkering around with things like that. And so yeah, I did that for several years, and then I went out a couple of years in the recruitment industry, working. Fancied a change. Car sales has changed a lot over the last few years, and just fancied a bit of a change, and worked in the gas and energy sector. Enjoyed that a lot as well. Certainly the sales side of things. but then come back into the automotive trade on the service side of the industry, and quite quickly found that the garage workshop loading or garages were losing profitable opportunities because they didn't have the right skilled or the right amount of staff in their businesses. So I quite quickly, back in 2010, I started a business for myself, which was taking the experience from the automotive industry that I'd gained over nearly a decade, but also a couple of years in recruitment, combined the two and started up a recruitment business called Autotech Recruit. It was actually our 10th anniversary yesterday. We now employ 30 staff in our office in Milton Keynes, and we have 450 contract vehicle technicians and MOT testers that work through our business on a daily basis, and we turn over as a business somewhere in excess of around about £10 million a year. So quite a journey we've been on in the last 10 years. We are now the largest specialist recruitment agency for temporary vehicle technicians in the UK. We deal with a whole host of businesses, from dealerships to large national chains, so businesses like Quick Fit and Hertfordshire Auto Centres, which are maybe some of the brands you recognise. Work very closely with a lot of vehicle manufacturers such as BMW, as you can see on the slide here, Volvo UK. And generally, the consensus is in the marketplace is that actually, although regardless of what you read in the press and what you might see as doom and gloom on the TV at the moment through obviously problems around COVID-19 or coronavirus, yes, there are people unfortunately being made redundant. This coronavirus situation is very sad in many industries, and people will lose their jobs. But actually in the motor trade is relatively quite buoyant at the moment. The industry has had a massive need for car salespeople, vehicle technicians, service advisors, R&D technicians, all the way up to vehicle manufacturing, and like Gemma said, everything in between. So the industry is vast in this country, and echoing what Gemma said, mobility is key to human beings. That's one of the things that will, as technology changes, that mobility will change with it, because we need to get from A to B. We need to go and get shopping, or we need to go to the doctors, or we need to go and see our grandmothers or family or whatever it is. But either by using a truck or a train or a plane or 9 times out of 10 a car, it's very important. And certainly in these times as well, when we do have issues with pandemics and people are very wary of using public transport for obvious reasons, the motor vehicle or the motorbike, for example, is more needed than ever before. So the car industry at the moment is, I wouldn't say necessarily say booming. I don't think there's many industries out there that can say they're booming at the moment, unless you're in pharmaceuticals or medical sectors. But it's pretty stable in terms of the requirement for skills and labour in it. And as I've hopefully demonstrated to you in terms of the last 20 years I've been involved in the automotive industry, from a student that ultimately left school with no real knowledge of what I wanted to do, other than probably be a professional footballer, which I probably knew back then I wasn't going to make that either. Reality hit me quite hard when I was 18, that I probably needed to get a proper job, and maybe wished I tried a little bit harder at school. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I think it shows to you that the journey I actually found myself in, that starting as a young green car salesman, and now running my own successful business that's turning over excess of £10 million a year, actually in quite a short period of time, in terms of your whole work life span, has been really exciting, and has given me some great opportunities and great and will do in the future to come. So I suppose the automotive industry has got a plethora of different things. I think Gemma touched on there's 160 different jobs within the motor trade or within the motor industry. So yeah, the world is your oyster, as to coin that phrase. You can literally be whatever you want to be in this sector. And yes, you may start off as most of the big CEOs and most of the guys and girls that are very successful in this industry all started somewhere. They're now the leading CEOs at public listed businesses that are earning very healthy salaries every year and having great career success. Vast majority of them started as, you know, junior accountants or apprentice vehicle technicians or junior car salespeople. So it's an industry that allows you to come in, develop your skills, your abilities, your confidence, and, you know, create some really good friends through the industry, lifelong friends, and there is so much choice. There really is a lot of choice. So we move on to the next slide, please, Gemma.
Oh, I think.
Oh, is that it? Okay, no, that's fine. So if I give you a little bit more, perhaps a little bit more understanding about, you know, it's all well and good talking about what sort of jobs and the sort of jobs. You know, one thing that I've definitely seen in the last 10 years is because of the supply and demand, and because there's such need for people to come into this industry, it's also a really good place to come into in terms of earning potential now. When I started back in the car industry, you know, when I was back, when I was sort of late teens, early 20s, you know, pay wasn't particularly great, in all honesty. But I think a lot of employers have now started to understand that, you know, paying people significantly above living wages is very important nowadays to attract the right caliber of people they need. So I think years gone by, decades gone by, the motor trade probably had seen people that were, you know, probably underskilled, undertrained, and not particularly well paid, in all honesty. However, I think that is changing. When I first started this, you could definitely find very, very experienced vehicle technicians. When I started the recruitment business 10 years ago, very good vehicle technicians and MOT testers around big city metropolitan areas like London, Birmingham, that for about £21,000, £23,000 a year, which in today's sort of currency isn't a huge amount of money, to be honest with you. You would really struggle nowadays to find a very good vehicle technician. If I was an employer nowadays, certainly around the London area, you're talking around £35,000 to £40,000 a year now. So you can see that in about 10 years, that salary has almost doubled. So I think that shows you in terms of it's a really great industry to come and get into now, because the reality is a lot of people that are in the sector at the moment, they're an aging workforce. There's more people leaving the industry than there are coming into it, for whatever reason that is. Personally, I think the industry is not particularly great at engaging with youngsters at school, and it's not particularly great at engaging with people in colleges, and it should get better at doing that. But from your perspective of coming into it, it's a great industry to come into. You're hitting it at the right time, because money is good, wages are good, training is good, skills is good, and also the environment that you're working in. You know, I think perceptionally a lot of people think that the garage trade is very dirty, it's oily, it's horrible, do I want to be working in a dirty cold garage? Or, you know, actually a lot of the environments you're working nowadays are almost like surgical operating theatres. They're very clean, they're very well what's the word, I'm sort of technically advanced in terms of the equipment that's in them. You know, so this isn't just about, do you have a passion for cars? It's like, actually, do you have a passion for IT? Because the amount of vehicles, for example, I think if you look at the new Mercedes S-Class, it's got something ridiculous, like 63 different CPU computer units on it. So actually, if you're into IT and software and stuff like that, that's what a vehicle technician of the future needs to be about. It needs to be about IT, software. You know, there's vehicles that are now plugged into garages that actually some technicians don't even touch them with oil and spanners. They're actually plugged into a laptop and done a software update for a satellite feed from Munich in Germany. That's their service, for example. So, you know, there's a lot of perceptional things to overcome that. You know, if technology excites you, and being at the cutting edge of R&D, research and development, and obviously if any of you watch things like Formula One and the aviation industry excites you, a lot of that technology and those advancements actually filter their way down into the motor trade. So there's some really cool gadgets and stuff to play with, and stuff to get involved in the future. So for me, you know, reaching out to everybody, you know, it served me really well. The 30 people that work for this business in Milton Keynes, we're all ex-industry. we all vary from, you know, 20-year-old guys out there that used to be vehicle technicians up to 65-year-old guys that work for us that used to be ex-regional service managers, and that for Vauxhall and Ford Motor Group. You know, we've all had a fantastic industry, a fantastic job career within this industry, and once you're in it, it's very hard to leave it. So I would definitely advise anyone who's thinking about a career in the automotive industry to give it a go, without a doubt. So.
Good. Gavin, thank you, and Jennifer. It's a really, really good oversight to the industry there. So yes, Gemma, you come back in. We've got a few questions that have come in already. Please do keep your questions coming in, because really we want to be able to ask your questions. So the things that you're thinking about at the moment, or the things you want to know from the things that Gavin and Gemma have mentioned already. So you do that on the questions tab on your dashboard. If you open that out, it will bring out a text box. Type your question in. It's only visible to me, and then I can direct the question to Gavin or to Gemma respectively, or possibly both of them will have an answer. So some of the questions that have come in at the moment, well, I'm going to sort of paraphrase this question, but a young person who wants to go in and and work in the motor industry at the moment, what do they do? I mean, do they just go and approach a garage or a dealership, or Gemma, are there organisations that can act as that, I guess that conduit to support and to find people?
Yeah, there's so many different options. So of course, walking through the door of a dealership is always a good route in. Number one, to show that confidence that you're happy to walk into the dealership and hand your CV over. But other than that, there's we've got the IMI have their Auto City website, which we have all of our vacancies advertised on, and they're pulled through from the National Apprenticeship Service as well. So you can either go onto the Auto City one for specific automotive apprenticeships, or you've got the National Apprenticeship Service. You've obviously got people like Autotech Recruit, but in Hertfordshire specifically as well, you've got Skillnet. So Skillnet training, unfortunately Dominic was going to join us today, but as a trainer he's been pulled in to teach some other apprentices, so he can't, unfortunately. But they are a fantastic automotive training provider. They deal with worldwide, but they're actually based in Watford. So they deal with the likes of DAF trucks and Ford cars and Ford engineering, as well as little independent garages as well. So they're quite a good option for you if you're in the local area and you want to deal with somebody who's actually Hertfordshire based. They've let me know they've currently got 110 apprenticeship opportunities actually open in the Hertfordshire area at the moment. So there are definitely vacancies around. There is definitely a need for automotive apprenticeships.
Good. Okay, thank you. We'll put all these websites up on the screen before we finish the webinar today, so Skillnet will be one of them. Gavin, question that's come in, I'd like you to answer. Why is this industry so male dominated? If indeed it is male dominated.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, there's a big C curve change for that, in terms of there is a lot more females coming into the industry now, and so there should be. If you look at a lot of sort of quite high-level CEOs now for Mercedes-Benz UK, BMW UK, there's a lot of high-level ladies that are taking senior posts in those businesses. I think where the real root problem is certainly when you come down, you see, certainly before my time, that there's a lot more ladies that are probably involved selling cars nowadays, at front of house, in garages, dealerships, so receptions, accounts, that sort of stuff. I think where it is still highly male dominated is certainly in the technical side of the industry, so fixing cars. And I think, unfortunately, absolutely wrongfully, there's a perception by, should we say, the male fraternity that's in the industry that actually females are not as good vehicle technicians, or not strong enough, or may not be able to put up with the male banter that's in the workshop that goes on. But actually you're seeing that change a little bit. We certainly have, we've got contractors, we've got several ladies that work for us as contractors who are vehicle technicians and MOT testers, and actually some of them are fantastic, really, really good, some of our best contractors. So don't be put off by that, because vehicle technicians of the past, yes, you were hauling gearboxes out with your bare hands and dropping them on your shoulders, and cars are a lot more reliable nowadays than they were back when I started in the industry, or when my dad used to do it. I mean, you were forever ripping engines out of cars because they were failing head gaskets, and cylinders were exploding or sumps were dropping off them. That doesn't happen any longer. Yes, you get the odd one that needs to have an engine pulled out every now and again, but they're very few and far between, to be honest with you. Cars are relatively pretty reliable nowadays, and the vast majority of warranty issues or problems they have with them, they're generally electrical problems or IT problems. They're generally software issues that need plugging into a laptop. So you don't need to be Arnold Schwarzenegger walking around ripping cars' wheels off stuff, and the traditional old calendar of a guy stood there with his overalls wrapped around his waist holding a couple of tyres. It's not like that anymore, and the industry's noticed that, has noticed this. And me and Gemma were talking about this the other day. There are organisations now within the automotive sector like the 30% Club, which is primarily led by senior females within the industry that are pushing for more ladies to come into this sector, and so they should.
Yeah. So I think the sector currently sits around 24% as a female contingency. But if you look sort of 4 years ago, that was down at 18%. So it is increasing, and sort of 4 years before that, it was down at 14%. So the females in the industry is certainly increasing. We've currently got 8% female executives on boards within the UK. Again, if you looked 5-10 years ago, that was far less. So slowly but surely, we're getting there. We're getting gender equal one day, I think.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Good answer. Gemma, unless you need any more of the slides, we'll get those taken down now, so we're all back on full screen.
I've stopped showing.
That's all right. No, we can do it. Another question that's come in. I'll get both of your opinions on this one. Really good question. So thanks for submitting these, and do keep putting them in as well. If I want to become a Formula One designer and engineer, is it a good idea to start as a mechanic?
Not necessarily. There are specific colleges that you can go to get a motorsport qualification. So I know that there was Silverstone College, for example, which obviously Silverstone racetrack in Northamptonshire, which I know is a completely different county to where you guys are situated. That's one. There was Tresham College that used to be over in Northamptonshire as well. So there are very specific colleges that do relevant qualifications around motorsport, and also universities as well. So you can go to universities, and I know that there's certain scholarships out there that if you perhaps approach people like Millbrook or Myra Proving Ground, that you can actually get a scholarship where businesses will basically fund you to go through your qualifications. I know actually one of the big motorsport engineering, one of the best universities for that is actually Hertfordshire College, Hertfordshire University, because they've got a massive motorsport and aviation part around that. I know Cranfield University, also in Bedford as well. So around this area is quite strong for that, because you have got that motorsport valley that runs pretty much from sort of Northamptonshire, Wellingborough, all the way down through Oxfordshire. Through that Thames Valley area, because you've got most of the major Formula One teams that are based in there. So Williams are at Oxford, you've got Red Bull at Milton Keynes, you've got Mercedes-Benz Petronas up at Brixworth in Northampton, and a load of other plethora of little motorsport organisations through Northamptonshire, Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire. So you're not too far away. I'd research some colleges. There's some really great colleges out there that will give you the credible qualifications that you need to get into it. The only thing I would say in terms of reality is that it's very sought after. You go to Red Bull's factory, which I did go to last year. They employ a lot of people, a lot of people. I think they employ somewhere in the region of about 3,000 people in total at Milton Keynes, and big operation. But when you actually look at what the engineering, the car building, the mechanical staff, being on TV in pit lane, that team of people is actually quite small. You're talking around about 150 people out of the 3,000 in terms of car production. Then you've got marketing, PR, you know, accounting, logistics, all these other things. So that's what makes it a really big operation and business in terms of actually becoming a Formula One technician. And I do have a friend who I used to play football with many years ago, Ian Stanforth, that works as a technician for Racing Point. You know, he had to, it took him a long time to get into that situation. So I'm not saying it's not possible. Absolutely, I'm not shattering anyone's dreams. Go for it wholeheartedly and do what you need to do to get there. But you know, just be mindful that there's a lot of other people that will be chasing that same dream as well. You know, so be prepared to work hard to get there.
Yeah, but presumably, I mean, Formula One is the glamorous side of it that lots of people are attracted to. I mean, there's a whole plethora of other roles and opportunities involved in the motor industry around designing and engineering that not necessarily Formula One though, Gemma.
No, definitely not. I mean, if you're into the motorsport side of things, obviously, yes, there's Formula One, but there's Formula Two, there's Formula Three, there's Formula E. You know, you've got all the rally driving as well that goes on, which is huge as well. So, you know, if motorsport is your area that you're really keen to get into, then it isn't just sort of focused on that Formula One. It's a huge, another sort of huge aspect of the automotive industry.
Basically, if it's got wheels and you can race it, there's a race team out there somewhere. So trucks, motorbikes, you know, it's all there. So yeah, I'd look at all of it. Yeah.
Okay, so question: if I wanted to be a forklift truck mechanic, do I have to specialise that to start with, or could I start with cars?
Well, interestingly, I used to work for a fork truck company before I got into the motor trade. So I worked for a business in Leighton Buzzard called Boss Southeast, which got bought by Young Heinrich Fork Trucks. I would say working in the motor trade as a vehicle technician qualification would absolutely stand you in good stead if you wanted to become a fork truck engineer. Yes, you could approach someone like Lansing, Lindy or Toyota or Mitsubishi. Or Young Heinrich, and they do have apprenticeship programs, so I would imagine there will be, you know, a specific fork truck course somewhere. But notoriously, fork trucks are either run on LPG, gas, diesel, or electric, so they're not going to be that far removed from actually working on a car, because most cars have either got a petrol, gas, diesel, or electric motor in them. So if you can understand what a car does, then you'll understand what a fork truck does. The only difference is the fork truck's obviously got a set of forks on the front of it, which is pneumatically powered. So as soon as you understand hydraulics and pneumatics as well, then, you know, that's the only differentiator really. I mean, in some ways, an engine's an engine, you know, so.
Yeah. Okay. Another question that's come in, you might need to elaborate on this one. I'll ask it as it comes in, but if you want to add a bit more to this one, what is a good path to go down to eventually have your own car company, e.g. Mercedes? So I guess it depends whether we're talking about running your own dealership or whether, you know, we're sort of looking to manufacture and start up a new brand together. What do you think, Gemma?
For me, I would say, you know, it's the first foot in the door is your first step to that career. Apprenticeships can lead on to anything. So, you know, we've got people that have gone for apprenticeship programs that are now MDs of companies, that are trainers, that are business managers. So really, you know, it is about taking those opportunities as they come, in my eyes. You know, the first step on your career is getting that qualification and working hard, and then you just work your way up.
Yeah. And Gavin, so you obviously run your own business, Gavin, and I'm sure there are really good mechanics and technicians out there that wouldn't be the right people to run their own company. So that's quite a separate skill set and desire in itself, isn't it?
Well, if you look at, I think there's something like 42,000 garages in the UK, of which are made up by 6,000 of those are dealerships. So I think it's about 64% of the 42,000 garages are in the UK are actually independently owned, or they're like a national fast fit chain like Quick Fit or Halfords. There's a huge amount of independently owned garages out there, which are fundamentally, I would say the vast majority of them are probably ex-vehicle technicians that either work for a dealership at some time, or they, I don't know, it was a father-son business or family-owned business. They've gone to college, got their qualification, and now running their business. They become business owners. So you tend to find a lot of people have made their way into running their business, and all at different levels. Some people run their businesses like a lifestyle business, and some people obviously really shoot for the stars and want to have, 17 dealerships around the country, of which some of them will be Lamborghini and Porsche. But look, unless you win the lottery tomorrow, that needs serious investment and serious backing behind it. So small acorns and all that. My advice is to get qualification and a skill behind you, because one, you'll never be out of work. If you've got a qualification, you've always got something to lean back on, and two, that you can build from there. Once you've got that qualification, you've got some knowledge and experience, 2 or 3 years under your belt, then I'm living proof of that. 7 years I sold cars for, a couple of years in recruitment, I've put the two together, I'm now running my own business. So it just boils down to hard work and some grit and determination at the end of the day. I'm not a qualified rocket science by any stretch of the imagination. I left school with three GCSEs in science and English, and I've got to where I've got from getting up out of bed every day and grafting, and that's really the nuts and bolts to it. That's all I would ever. If you've got the right attitude and a can-do attitude, then you can do anything you want in this world. Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, that leads on to another good question, Gavin. You obviously see a lot of young people, and you're working on behalf of lots of your clients who are looking for staff there. What are you looking for in a young person, perhaps someone coming in through as their first job? What are the sorts of things that you'd expect from them? Would you expect them to be able to take apart a car engine and put it back together again, or is it more around their personality?
Absolutely, and I mean that we've just employed someone in our business here who's 52 years old, and it wasn't necessarily about his skills or what he brings to the business, it was about his attitude. So even at 52 years old, he was a seasoned automotive professional. It's like, does he fit into our culture? Does he fit into our work ethic and our ethos? And that you can teach anybody anything that you want them to do in terms of a day-to-day job. That's just functional stuff. But it's whether you've got it here in your heart and you want to actually do the job, and you've got the right attitude. So that for me, when I speak to a lot of employers in the marketplace, whether they're dealerships or national chains or whatever, that's one of the main key things that people look for, employers look for, is people turning up on time for interviews. At least turning up on an interview would be a start. Being smart. I think some of that old-fashioned way of turning up with a shirt and tie on is kind of laid off a little bit in business sometimes. But you know what? Some people still like that. It shows that you've made a bit of effort and you've gone out of your way to make a bit of an effort and a statement. So always being smart, well prepared, turning up prepared with good questions. Good solid questions. Doing some research. Do some research on the business as well. That really impresses people when they see that you've actually taken time out of your day to spend a couple of hours looking through websites, looking at the company history. No one loves anything more than someone coming in and telling them, oh, you've got a really interesting business, and I did some research on you and noticed that your grandfather started the business in 1932 or something like that. And straight away it's nostalgia, it brings back good feelings about them, and people can instantly see you care. You've taken the time and bothered to actually express an interest in me and my business, as opposed to just rocking up and expecting me to go, oh, thanks for being here, I'll give you a job. It doesn't work like that. So unfortunately in life you've got to put yourself out there a little bit sometimes, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by just putting in a little bit of time and effort, people will respond accordingly. There may be a few administrative hoops you might have to jump through, a few forms you might have to fill out and that, but for those of you that put yourself out there and go there with that can-do attitude, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised in terms of the reaction you'll get from a lot of employers in the motor trade, without a doubt.
Yeah, good. No, I think that's such an important tip about research, that if you're going for a job somewhere, I've had other employers in other industries say that to me. Just by looking at a company's website, you'll get a feel, like, is everyone there suited and booted and wearing shirt and tie, or is it casual, or is it somewhere in between? Just getting that sort of insight can be really valuable, can't it? One of the other questions that often comes up, but Gemma in her presentation said about how important English and maths and science were at GCSE level. I think a lot of people look at that and think, well, I already know how to take apart a car engine. Why are English and maths important? So, I mean, Gavin, have you got any examples of why English and maths at that functional level are important?
Yeah, I think Volkswagen Audi Group brought this in a few years ago as a sort of prerequisite for their apprenticeships. And I think a lot of that fundamentally is the way that technology is changing now. You know, literacy and being able to do general mathematics and being able to understand physics and stuff like that is important, because cars are becoming extremely complex pieces of equipment now, like I alluded to. You know, they're not those, or, you know, some of you may have seen in the last few weeks, by 2030 you will not be able to buy a conventional petrol or diesel car brand new any longer. It will be electric. And then by 2035, any hybrid vehicles, which for those of you that don't know, have a petrol or a diesel engine in it, but also some sort of battery driven motor as well, electric motor as well. By 2035, they will be eradicated as well. So by 2035, we will all be driving around, well, other than used cars that are still out there in used car park, but any new car sold in the UK will be electric. Now, you know, these are highly complex vehicles, and not in as much as the actual stuff that drives the car, it's the technology and software that's in the car to make these things work, you know. And we're only talking about hybrid vehicles now. You know, if you start talking about things like ADAS systems, which are like safety systems on cars, autonomous vehicles, which the technology is there, it's ready to go. People like Ford, Volvo, you know, all this stuff's been around for years. The only reason it's not here is because our road networks and the governments are not prepared for it yet in terms of insurance, legislation. Obviously, we've got Brexit going on at the moment, so the last thing they want to be talking about is having cars driving around by themselves without anyone. You know, there's a lot of major infrastructure and investment that has to go into before you can start letting people out. But, you know, in terms of the technology that's in these cars, the game is changing. So basic understanding of mathematics, literacy, English and science is paramount in terms of being able to work on these cars, because gone are the days, like I said, of just undoing a few bolts and ripping engines out, and that's going to be a thing of the past, you know. So
yeah. And Gemma, from your perspective, obviously, that was your slide. You got any other sort of practical examples of where English and maths are really important?
Well, I'd say the one thing people don't consider really is people think of mechanics that they're stuck away in the workshop working on the vehicles and they don't really have any customer interaction. That's changing also. So actually the technicians do call up the customers. There's some of you may have seen it, you've got like See It Now, where actually when they're fixing your car, they do a whole video and talk you around the diagnostics of your vehicle and what's going on. So you have to have that area of being able to communicate and being able to understand not only what you're doing, but being able to communicate it appropriate enough for the customer to be able to understand. So yeah, so I think, you know, very much what Gavin was saying, the role is so different. You know, you watch mechanics on TV, I'm sure you've all seen EastEnders and Coronation Street with their greasy little garages, and it's just not like that. So it's really just understanding those changes of perception in terms of the technology that's out there, and you know, the state of art garages that actually you work in now. You have to have that level.
Yeah. And interestingly as well, I mean, just to add on to that, I think Gemma made a very valid point there. Volvo cars in Sweden, for example, when you go to one of their dealerships, you don't actually interact with a service advisor or a service manager. When you call to book your car at Volvo in for a service, you actually talk directly to your technician. So they treat their technician like a doctor, they're like a dentist. You know, you don't go to a dentist and then have the receptionist rip your teeth out or do root canal or do your fillings for you. You go to a qualified professional. So this is where the industry has been going, and the IMI and other organisations working really hard at the moment to raise that level of the perception. And I think that's the key word Gemma just used there, the perception of the industry. is that actually for the likes of people like vehicle technicians moving forward, they're not seen as those greasy, oily people that you see in EastEnders and that. They are actually the doctors and the dentists, the professionals you go to get your vehicle fixed, serviced and diagnosed, you know.
Yeah. All right. We've got a couple more questions that I want to get through. So here's one. This one for Gemma. When you apply on the Skillnet website, or other, let's just say other apprenticeship providers are available, but Skillnet are one of our home-based ones, will it let you apply if you haven't left school yet, i.e. you don't leave until next year? So how far in advance should you be thinking about this?
As soon as you've got your predicted grades, you can start applying for apprenticeships. So
Okay.
once you know what you're going to be predicted and you can enter them in on any of the applications, they'll see from your date of birth anyway that you won't have sat your GCSEs yet. So, but if you put your predicted grades down, then you can be put forward for interview. You can even be successful in gaining an apprenticeship prior to you sitting your GCSEs. So yeah, I would fully recommend, once you know that's what you're interested in, get your application in.
If there's a specific brand out there that really takes your fancy, so Volvo, for example, is run by Calex, Volkswagen Audi Group was, I think, Babcock's. I don't know if it is, but they tend to migrate. But you know, Porsche and Toyota are Pro VQ. So what I would do is I would go to the actual vehicle manufacturer's website instead of trying to find out who the learning and apprentice provider is for those particular brands. Go to the brand website and look at, you know, Mercedes-Benz, and they will have an apprenticeship piece on there, which you can navigate through and apply through there. The other thing is big brand.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Hertfordshire Auto Centres, Quick Fit, ATS Euromaster, all those big national chains, they all have apprenticeship programs as well. There's the motorcycle sector, there's paint and body shops as well. So big companies in the paint and body industry are looking desperate for apprentices at the moment. Companies like Autoglass that do windscreens. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of apprenticeships out there. So you know, just go to some of these big brand websites, and you'll find those routes to market through their websites.
Yeah. But what I can do as well is at the end of this, I'll share it with you, Gareth. On our Auto City website, we've got all the manufacturers listed there, and they've actually all hyperlinked, so you can go straight to their apprentice pages from our Auto City website. So I'll send that link over.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Next question. So probably the penultimate question. If you do want to get another question in, do get it in quick because we're going to start wrapping up in a moment. How old do you have to be to get a Saturday job, for example, at a dealership? So I mean, I'll ask that one face value first of all, Gemma.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to say 15 because I thought that is the legal age that you're allowed to start doing part-time work. Gavin, do you know any different?
I'll probably agree with you on that in terms of what I don't even know what the legal laws are any longer.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just before you get before you're 16, you get your national insurance card, which then gives you the right to go in and do work. So yeah, you'd be at the upper ages of 15.
Correct. So
yeah, the best thing to do as well is if your school is still doing work experience, then see if you can go into a local dealership or a local garage and get your foot in the door with your work experience as well, because they're usually really engaged in taking people on work experience, and it's a nice step in the door, and it usually leads on. If you've then worked in there for work experience, you'll be considered for their apprenticeship opportunity when it opens.
Okay.
I think through colleges as well, F&E colleges, I was, for example, chatting to Nottingham College earlier, which I learned you can have, if you were to do, say, like a entry level 1 or 2 or level 3 qualification in motor vehicle, and you can do up to from 30 to about 350 hours, I think it is, work experience, which the college will help you organise, and you can go and do that. So I would definitely 100% champion that and say to people, go and do that, because it's the greatest way into getting a job, by offering yourself up for a bit of free work. You know, get out on your bike or get on the bus or do whatever you need to do, but you know, type yourself up a little CV, a little bit about yourself, what you want to do, your hobbies, your interests, and drop it off to a few people. And again, I think you'll surprise yourself in terms of people that may come back and go, yeah, fine, okay, you want to pop down next Saturday? You know, so it's the easiest way to route to market sometimes. You know, you've got to go and look for it. It's not going to come and knock on your door, you know.
Yeah, no, it sounds good advice. And the final question I'll ask you, it's just come in. I mean, Gavin, you spoke about when you were young and you were growing up and you were often trying to fix things and look at things and try and repair them. So just thinking about the sorts of experiences that someone could gain that would really be useful without actually gaining any formal work experience. Obviously, we're not telling you to go into your parents' bonnets and start having a sort of look around there. But if someone wants to start their own automotive company, would foam and clay models be a good start before moving on to technical aspects?
Foam and clay models, I suppose, what they're talking in terms of design, I suppose that would be something. Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you can demonstrate you've got that skill set, it's, you know, trying to get that in front of people to say, hey, look, I can create this, I can do this. You know, someone somewhere will take a chance on you if they think you've got the skills and ability they need. So, you know, if you are creating foam and clay models and doing that sort of stuff, well, then create a portfolio of photographs and a slide deck on PowerPoint or something, and email it to a few HR directors or CEOs of businesses and say, hey, I'm really interested in getting into this, because there'll be scholarships, internships, you know, undergraduate schemes. There's a lot of these big businesses. And my brother-in-law, you know, he left school, went through university, went to Hertfordshire University and did motor vehicle studies, and has for the last 10 years now built all the suspension, wheel and braking platforms for Jaguar Land Rover. So, you know, and the only way he got into Jaguar Land Rover was by showcasing himself and submitted them a video, you know, of him actually, you know, taking a chassis and a suspension setup apart, and they come straight back to him and said, yeah, fine, you can, once you pass your university degree at Hertfordshire, we've got a graduate job for you up here. And you know, he now lives in Leamington Spa, got a really nice job, travels the world on Jaguar Land Rover's budget and paycheck, and spends most of his time playing golf. So fair play to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say the same. You know, if you're going to do anything, document it. I've had so many apprentices over the years that have come in to interview for positions, and they've come with booklets of, you know, pictures and evidence of when they've helped their dad or their neighbour work on their car, or they spray painted something at school. So they literally have, you know, a whole booklet full of evidence of stuff they've done showing their passion for the industry. You know, if you're that sort of person and you're out there doing that every weekend, then do document it, save it, and shout about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other tip I'd add to that as well is never lie. If you don't know the answer to the question, just say you don't know the answer to the question. Just say, I know the answer to the question, but I'll go away and find out and come back to you. You don't ever try and fudge something or try and you know, blubber your way around it, because that's where people will find you out. So you're better off showing honesty and integrity by putting your hands up and saying, sorry, I don't know the answer to that. So
absolutely. Do you know what, that's a really good lesson in life, Gavin, and it's probably a really good sensible point to finish the session on. So hopefully in a moment we're just going to show you on the screen details of any of the websites that we've mentioned today. So of course Gavin's company Autotech recruits. We've also spoken to you about Skillnet as well, who are a Hertfordshire based apprenticeship provider. They're based down in the Watford area. There are other apprenticeship providers out there. So yeah, there are the websites as well as Gemma's website for the Institute of Motor Industry, which is a really good starting point actually. So thanks so much for watching this session today. So we have recorded it. It is going to go onto our YouTube channel on HOP as well. So we would encourage you to become really familiar with the HOP website. If it's not something you've seen in your schools yet, then hopefully it's something that you will see and become more aware of soon. On the screen at the moment, you can see all of our social media handles, and you can see our website as well. That QR code there, if you take a picture of that, that will take you directly to the section of our website where this webinar and all the previous webinars that we've been running since May on different industries will appear. So it may well be, if you go to there, you might find that there are other career industries that you want to find out a little bit more about. So firstly, thanks to all of you in attendance today for coming along and giving up your time at the end of a school day to come and watch this. We hope it's been really useful. We hope that you found something out that you didn't know before, and that you feel really inspired now by the motor trade industry. Thanks finally to Gavin and to Gemma for giving up their time in their busy days as well to come and explain to you and share some of their insights and experiences. So thanks to Gavin and to Gemma. Thanks for watching, and best of luck in your career progressions within the motor trade, everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gareth.
Cheers, thanks.